All right, so this is our friend Aram. I see him once every 2 years. Only time when there is grassroots conference. He is one of the Armenian treasure. He doesn't want to hear that, but he is. He is constantly running Armenian affair all day, all night. And I thank you very much for that. You are just amazing guy. Let's talk a little bit about ANC, but I want to talk a little bit more political stuff because I don't see you quite often. So ANC, when ANC started?
The ANCA and our precursor organizations have been active in America literally for more than a century. As early as there were Armenians in America back to the 1890s, the precursors of the ANC were active even then.
You guys have everywhere. I was in Athens. There is ANC in Athens. I went, I interviewed the guy in there too. It's amazing. You guys, in every country, you have a place.
Well over 50 countries, there's an active ANC presence. We're very active in Europe, Eurasia, South America, obviously North America, United States, Canada, even now in Mexico. So yeah, pretty much the sun never sets on the high tide.
Yeah, I think that's rightly done. So what do you do in Washington, D.C.?
Okay, we represent the views of Armenians, Armenian Americans, on basically three issues. Artsakh, a free, secure, independent Artsakh, justice for the Armenian genocide, and of course stronger U.S.-Armenian relations.
I mean, you have to excuse me asking this because journalists, we have to. I see you guys more with the liberal, with not with what they call them right-wing or Republicans. Why is that?
Actually, you know that Ted Cruz is an original co-sponsor of the Armenian Genocide Resolution. So is Marco Rubio. We have Chris Smith, Gus Bilirakis, countless Republican friends. There are parts of the country where most of the elected officials are of one party, more from one party than the other, and people who live in those particular areas might think that we work more with one side than the other. The fact of the matter is we work with anybody who's willing to work with us, and our only priority our priority is not left or right, Democrat or Republican. Our priority is an Armenian American priority, so we work across the board with all different types of organizations, and we're proud to work with Democrats and Republicans.
How many staff you have in Washington?
We got about half a dozen staff. Yeah.
And you do all these things with half a dozen staff?
Well, really, here's the model of the Armenian National Committee here in the United States and around the world is largely a volunteer model. So you have a few people who, cover things, attend hearings, organize action alerts, but the vast majority of work, the political capital of our community, is not in half a dozen people or the office in Los Angeles or Boston or New York. It's volunteers. It's grassroots Armenian American volunteers who do the vast amount of work, and we just have a small team, a relatively modestly funded team that's able to create some structure, and within that structure, volunteers can be effective.
Do you think one day the Congress will recognize Armenian genocide?
I think we're getting closer to that day. I think a few markers of that are that traditional opponents of Armenian genocide recognition, traditional allies of Ankara, have started either going silent on Turkish issues, and some have even come over to the Armenian side, or I'll say the side of truth. So I think that the Turkish pressure still exists. Geopolitically, Turkey still has regional geopolitical leverage, but the reflection of that geopolitical power, the expression of that in Washington in the form of legislative support is diminishing. And I think that's taking place more quickly than most people realize. And I think that in the context of Syria, in the context of the regional geopolitics, Erdogan's distancing from the U.S., his hostility toward the U.S. and our allies, including Greece, including Cyprus, including Israel, of course, Armenia, that the various pieces of the puzzle, including American domestic politics, the various pieces of this puzzle are coming together in a way that we may see the U.S. reject that gag rule sooner rather than later. The question is, who in the U.S. government will do it? Will it be Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House? Will it be Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, or will it be President Trump?
How is your relationship with the McConnell? with the Republican leadership?
Perfectly fine. In fact, they've been helpful on several fronts. Senator McConnell and Speaker Pelosi recently met with the Speaker of the Armenian Parliament. There are 8 issues going through the House and Senate now, both for Armenia and Artsakh, and I can tell you that the subcommittee chairman on the Senate side is Senator Graham. He has been helpful, but we've also received only positive signals from Senator McConnell, who's the head of the Senate. Obviously, we've seen support on the Democratic side as well, Senator Van Hollen and others. But no, there's been very balanced and very constructive help from across the aisle.
In terms of Trump,
Yeah.
just a few days ago, he first gave the green light Erdogan to go invade the country and kill and murder. And then he gave red light. He says, I'm going to destroy your economy. And then he capitulated, did this so-called peace, what is that they call them? They came out with
Like a ceasefire.
Ceasefire. And, yeah.
Turkey said it wasn't a ceasefire, it was a pause.
Yeah, so Erdogan is playing now a hero in Turkey because he was able to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
So what is Trump's foreign policy?
Okay, I don't think anybody knows what Trump's foreign policy is. I don't think Trump knows what Trump's foreign policy is. You know, with different people as the national security advisor and different people holding sway, you know, having more power or less power within his foreign policy establishment, there's different priorities, and we've seen the policy shift quite a bit even in these last 3 years. But I think anyone who says that they understand Trump's foreign policy is simply not.
Yeah.
It's simply not the case. I'll step back a second though, and say that Trump. I think everybody would agree, whether they like him or not, that Trump is a disruptive force. He came into the White House and just has disrupted the established way of doing things, including on foreign policy and including on parts of the world that we care about. So on the one hand, I think almost all Armenians would have profound reservations about the green light that he gave for Turkey to attack the Kurds in Syria. By the way, not just Kurds, including Christians,
yes,
including Armenians in Qamishli and other areas in the northeast of Syria. So, like, we can hold that as a very destructive step, while at the same time recognizing that in this generally disruptive environment, in which let me say this, the givens of the past are now up for grabs. There are new opportunities for organizations like us to move our issues forward. And that's on U.S.-Armenia relations, that's on Artsakh, and that's on the genocide, and perhaps most specifically on the genocide. It's hard to tell which direction the president will go. We've seen him go in several directions on Syria. I think very soon, there was a Newsweek story about this today, the issue of U.S. recognition of the genocide will rise to the level of the congressional leadership and even the White House leadership, and how the president deals with it is unpredictable, but I can tell you this, it will create advantages and opportunities for our community to move our issues forward, and we're devoted to that. We have no dog in this fight. We're not fighting for either party. We're not going to spend our capital trying to advance the Democratic or Republican parties. That's their business. But what we are going to do is look very carefully, very thoughtfully at this situation, as unpredictable, as complex, and as fluid as it is, and to try to chart the best way forward for our issues.
The only good things about Trump is when he says something, he does it, whether it's good or bad. Like, for example, Jerusalem, he decided he's going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Yeah. He did. So, sometimes president like Trump, if they want, they do things. They don't care what other people. Yeah, okay. They don't. Yeah. The backlash doesn't make no difference for them.
There's two things there. The first thing is that you're right, that he does not automatically accept the givens of the past, and the sad reality is that the establishment in Washington, the foreign policy establishment in Washington, unelected, highly privileged, they have thought for decades now that they are entitled to set U.S. foreign policy, regardless of who comes into office. It's good to see them not steering the ship of state. That's good. And if we're going to chalk something up to Trump, we'll chalk up one for him, that he did not cede American policy, American morality to this set of this permanent entitled establishment. That's good, and that creates opportunities for us. So yeah, that on the scorecard, he gets points for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I could talk to you a long
Yeah, I'd be
time.
glad
I
to.
know you. Everybody want to talk to
No.
you here. I don't want to waste too much of your time,
Come
but
to Washington, we could talk forever.
I would definitely come. I was almost coming, but there is so many places to be. You know,
know.
I just came back. I was in Armenia. I was in Greece. You know, so thank you very much. I wish you all the best. You are doing amazing job,
You're very
and we
kind.
are very proud of you.
Shut
Thank you.
Thank you.